Hello and welcome or welcome back to the Import Export Hub channel, everybody. Bias Bogdan here, your host for the next couple of minutes. Thanks for joining me. By the way, don't forget to hit those small vanity buttons below this video, of course, if you like this content. And without anything else to add here, let's dive into Greece's imports and exports. And as usual, I will start with the overall imports and exports, and afterwards I will take the top 5 chapters from each flow in order to see together the trading partners as well, together with the main drivers. So guys, first things first, Greece's exports for 2022 amounted to some $57.6 billion, which is almost a 22% increase in relative terms, or $10.3 billion in absolute ones, with mineral fuels, aluminium, and pharmaceutical products driving most of them, followed in this top 10 list by chapters like, I don't know, electrical machinery and equipment, plastics, or dairy produce, this last one, managing an impressive $1.17 billion, or a 2.04% share in Greece's overall exports, which is impressive if you ask me. Managing to surpass chapters like copper or iron and steel, which are traditional top 10 export drivers for Greece. Now, in terms of export concentration, these top 10 chapters make up for a very good share, 67.5% to be exact, which is again impressive, even though the reliance on petroleum products, trading rather, is quite high, in the upper range of 30%, at least if we look at 2022. Now, relative to the year-on-year dynamic, as I've said previously, we have a positive change, even though we have two chapters in this top 10 list who registered the contraction, chapter 30, so pharma products, and then chapter 8, so edible fruits and nuts, with some $750 million contraction cumulatively, but clearly, guys, these negative figures was offset by the huge and opportunistic, I might add, increase of the petroleum exports, who saw a $7.8 billion increase, which is also the largest absolute increase in this top 10 list. Other impressive figures were recorded in relation with aluminium products or machinery and mechanical appliances, but the absolute figures for these two are much, much lower. So, guys, these were Greece's main export drivers for 2022, and now I will turn my attention on the import flow, where we see that we have almost $98 billion worth of imports, which were driven mostly by the mineral fuels and oils chapter, electrical machinery, and on the third spot we have chapter 84. So machinery and mechanical appliances with some $5.8 billion worth of imports. Other chapters who make the import mix for Greece include the vehicles chapter, so 87. Then we have iron and steel, organic chemicals, and the list ends. The top 10 list ends with chapter 76. So aluminium and articles thereof with some $2.1 billion worth of imports. As in the case with the export flow, chapter 27 makes up quite a lot in Greece's overall imports, some 35%. But again, this has to be put in the context in which Greece has a long history of trading nation, coupled, of course, with the fact that Greece has also the largest number of merchant vessels in the world, who is, of course, helping the nation trade worldwide and take all the opportunities available. Now, relative to the year-on-year dynamics, we see a whopping $20.7 billion increase in imports for 2022, again, thanks to chapter 27, who saw a $14 billion increase relative to 2021, while on the negative side, we have three chapters who registered contractions. So pharma products, commodities not elsewhere specified, so chapter 99. And the last one is chapter 29, organic chemicals, who had a 18.6% contraction, or some $525 million if I were to put a dollar figure to this percentage, which is quite a lot. But anyways, moving now to the balance of trade here, we see that overall we have a negative balance of trade amounting to some $40 billion, with almost all the top 10 import chapters on the red, except chapter 76, who pulled off an impressive $944 million positive trade balance. And guys, with both flows being covered, let's take a look at Greece's trading partners, and I will start with the main driver from the export flow, which is chapter 27, where Bulgaria, third-tier partner for Greece, if you want, a couple of years ago, became its main export destination in 2022 with some $2.27 million, followed by Libya. And on the third spot, we have here Lebanon with some $1.6 billion worth of exports. And the list goes on with other countries like Italy, Cyprus, or the United Kingdom. And it ends with Spain, who in 2022 managed to import from Greece $605 million worth of petroleum products, translating into some 298% more relative to 2021. The year-on-year dynamic for this chapter is positive overall, some $7.8 billion, with all the top 10 partners managing positive figures, with Bulgaria alone managing a $1.9 billion increase year-on-year. And speaking of Bulgaria, guys, let's see also the main driver, which is heading to 711, so petroleum, gas, and other gaseous hydrocarbons, while towards Italy here the main driver was heading to 710, so petroleum oils and oils obtained from bituminous minerals, excluding here crude. Moving now, guys, to Greece's second export driver, we have here chapter 76, aluminium and articles thereof, with some $3 billion worth of exports, with Italy, Germany, and France as the main partners, followed in this top 10 list by others like, I don't know, Poland, Serbia, and Bulgaria. This last one managing to import from Greece some $103 million worth of products from this chapter. The overall year-on-year change is positive, some 20% in relative terms, or $509 million in absolute ones, with Italy having registered the largest absolute positive change, some $139.6 million. On the trend column, we see that 2022 was the most fruitful one, if you want, in terms of exports for almost all the top 10 partners, except for the United States, who had its largest imports of aluminium products from Greece back in 2018. As for the main drivers, well, we see that heading 7604, so we are talking about bars, rods, and profiles of aluminium drove Greece's exports towards Germany, while towards the United States here we have heading 7606, so we are talking about plates, sheets, and strip of aluminium of a thickness bigger than 2 millimeters, excluding here the expanded ones. Jumping now, guys, to Greece's third export driver in terms of value, we have here chapter 30 with almost $2.7 billion worth of exports, with Germany, France, and the United Kingdom as the main destinations, which were followed in this top 10 list by other countries like Cyprus, Italy, or South Korea here. This last one managing to import from Greece some $75.3 million worth of products from this chapter. In what concerns the year-on-year dynamics, we see that we have a contraction of 21% or $717.5 million, with France alone contributing with some $610 million to this negative change. On the positive side, we have United Kingdom, who increased its imports from Greece with almost $61 million, but clearly this is only the 10th relative to France, so it didn't make a dent really in this negative change. As for the main drivers, well, we have two identical headings for both the United Kingdom and Austria, and we are talking about heading 3004, so pharma products put up for retail sale. Moving now to Greece's fourth export driver, we have here Chapter 85 with some $2.4 billion worth of exports in 2022 with Germany, Cyprus, and Italy as the main destinations, which were followed by other important partners like, I don't know, the United States, Poland, or the Netherlands. This last one managing to import from Greece some $42 million worth of goods. Now, relative to the year-on-year changes, we see that the overall figure is positive, some 14% in relative terms, or $289 million in absolute ones, with almost all the top 10 partners registering positive figures, except for Cyprus, Poland, and also the Netherlands, who had contractions, but not that much to offset the positive figures coming from Bulgaria and Italy, who managed to increase their imports from Greece with $120 and $93 million respectively, which is quite impressive. And guys, speaking of Italy, my adoptive country now, it seems that heading 8541 drove most of its imports from Greece, while the exports towards Cyprus were mainly driven by heading 8517. So we are talking about smartphones. And lastly, guys, the fifth and last chapter that I will cover from the export flow is chapter 84, so machinery and mechanical appliances, with some $2.33 billion worth of exports in 2022, with Italy here, Spain, and Cyprus as the main partners, which were followed in this top 10 list by others like, I don't know, Turkey, Romania, or the United States here. This last one managing to import from Greece some $43 million worth of products from this particular chapter. In terms of year-on-year changes, we see again a positive figure, 18% in relative terms, thanks to the good figures coming from Spain and Italy, who offset the negative ones coming from Bulgaria, China, and also the US. As for the main drivers, well, it seems that for both Spain and Romania, we have the same heading 8471, so mostly personal computers and laptops. And guys, with the main chapters from the export flow being covered, I will now move to the import side, where the main driver was chapter 27. And as we can see here, Greece's imports from this chapter amounted to some $34.2 billion, with the Russian Federation, Iraq, and Kazakhstan as the main partners, followed in this top 10 list by others like, I don't know, Azerbaijan, Saudi Arabia, or North Macedonia. This last one managing to export towards Greece some $428 million worth of goods. As we can clearly see, 2022 was the top performer in terms of value, and it had a 70% increase relative to 2021, which translated to some $14 billion, with all the top 10 partners registering positive figures in relation with Greece, the largest figure being registered in relation with the Russian Federation, Mother Russia, some $4.6 billion more imports from this country relative to the previous year. If the top three partners were stable in this 2018-2022 time frame, the rest of them them change ranking quite a lot. The surprise here being North Macedonia, who in 2022 managed to jump to $428 million from an insignificant $91 million the previous year. As for the main drivers, well, guys, we have heading 2710 coming from the Russian Federation, and for Azerbaijan, we have heading 2711. Moving now, guys, to the second import driver for Greece, we have here chapter 85, so electrical machinery and equipment, where China clearly dominates Greece's imports from this chapter. It's followed by the Netherlands, and on the third spot we have here Germany with almost $659.5 million, and the top 10 partners continue with Italy, Vietnam, and ends here with Austria, who managed to export towards Greece some $115 million worth of goods. Now, relative to the year-on-year change, we see a 17% increase in relative terms, or $867 million in absolute ones, with China alone managing to increase its exports with some $792 million year-on-year, which is truly remarkable. And if you ask me, and if the Chinese entrepreneurs are smart, and they are basically trying to stockpile as much as they can as they anticipate some duties from the European Union on photovoltaic cells. Otherwise, guys, I don't explain this huge increase, and I don't buy the narrative of the EU green transition, or at least it's not the main cause, if you want. Anyways, coming back to the year-on-year dynamics, we see that we have two partners who registered contractions. Sorry, there are three. I didn't saw Vietnam, but the figures are definitely dwarfed if you compare with what happened in relation to China. As for the main drivers, well, we have heading 8541 coming from China, while from Vietnam we have heading 8517, so we are talking about smartphones. Moving now, guys, to the third import driver for Greece, we have here chapter 84, so we are talking about machinery and mechanical appliances with some $5.8 billion worth of imports, with China, Germany, and Italy as the main partners, followed in this top 10 list by others like, I don't know, the United States or Poland, and ends with Bulgaria, who in 2022 managed to export towards Greece some $108 million worth of goods from this particular chapter. Overall, the year-on-year dynamic is positive, some $323 million in absolute terms, as the figures relating to China managed to offset the negative changes coming from Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, also France or Bulgaria. Poland's exports towards Greece are incredibly stable, but here, most probably, if you ask me, it has to do with some contract. As for the main drivers, well, we have two identical headings for both Italy and Turkey, so we are talking about heading 8481. Jumping now, guys, to Greece's fourth import driver, we have here chapter 30, so we are talking about pharmaceutical products with some $4.17 billion worth of imports, and we see that Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands were the main partners, which were followed in this top 10 list by others like Italy, Ireland, or Denmark here, this last one managing to export towards Greece some $62.7 million worth of goods. Relative to the year-on-year changes, we see that overall we have a negative 2% almost, which translated into some $82 million in absolute terms, and not because of the top 10 partners. year-on-year dynamics, but because of the huge contraction of the imports coming from China, who made a one-time spike back in 2021 when it managed to export towards Greece some $129 million worth of goods. As for the main drivers, well, we have heading 3002 coming from Belgium and heading 3004 coming from Ireland here. And lastly, guys, the fifth import driver for Greece for 2022 was Chapter 87 vehicles with some $3.7 billion worth of imports, with Germany, Italy, and France as the main partners, followed in this top 10 list by others like Spain or China, and it ends with Belgium, who managed to export some $107 million worth of goods. The year-on-year change is positive overall, some $362 million in absolute terms, thanks to the strong numbers coming from Germany and France, who managed to offset the negative figures coming from Spain, the United Kingdom, or Belgium. As for the main drivers, well, we have automobiles coming from France, so heading 8703, while from China we have here motorcycles, so we are talking about heading 8711. And guys, with this last chapter being also covered, that's it for today. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to hit those small buttons below the video. And as usual, until next time, keep your business safe. Thanks.